Welcome back to The Vocalist. Today I am hearing the band OPETH for the first time. We're starting with the official live video for the song Ghost of Perdition. It's a long one, so buckle up. Here we go. Okay, I think my strategy today is to not rewind as often as I normally do. So I might be stopping earlier than I usually do. I love that the vocals started pretty quickly with the onset of this song. I feel like normally when I hear anything metal, I'm gonna say metal. I don't know if that's the right genre to put them in, but anything that has a harsher feel to it, there's like a really, elongated introduction, which I also like because it kind of sets the scene, but this was fun because the vocals surprised me. He has got to have some of the best diction I have heard from someone using such harsh vocals. I'm assuming this is false chord engagement. I'm not hearing a lot of sustained tone. I'm also assuming he's very tall. I don't know. I haven't quite seen him compared to everyone else in the band yet, but just there's so much depth in that like distorted sound. And so in my mind, I'm thinking that's just purely reliant upon his anatomy and the shape and size of his larynx. And so in general, when you're taller, you have a longer larynx. And so I don't know if that's what's happening, but that's my theory. We'll keep going. So far, this is a 10-minute song, so I don't know how things are going to progress, but I like that there's a bit of a groove. And he's just kind of, simmering. Like the vocals are just simmering on top of what's happening musically. Okay, let me go back. I want to get both those harsh vocals and the clean vocals in one take.
Devil cracked the earth, he shone for told she was the one. You walked down to the room, he said you had to live before you die young. Devil cracked the earth, he shone for told she was the one. You walked down to the room, he said you have to live before you die young.
What is happening? I'm rewinding a little bit. I love the harmonies here. his, I'm gonna say like harsh and clean vocals for lack of better terms. This section where we're getting a lot of phonation and sustained singing tone, there's still a bit of bite in his sound. I feel like he takes advantage of that forward placement to get more carry, more cut in his sound. But it's also so mellow. And maybe that's more in his pronunciation and his phrasing than his actual tone. I don't know. We'll see. Because I'm also a little distracted by that like pulsing sound in the instruments. So as soon as I start to latch onto his voice, then I get distracted by what the instruments are doing. So we'll see how this goes.
Devil cracked the earth, the shelf, I told you was the one. But open to the room, I said you have to live before you die young.
Do you know what it is? The sustained singing we're getting, I think the other surprise and the reason I like it so much is when I hear other vocalists do harsh and sustained, followed by sustained, clean singing, it's usually not so subdued and so intimate. I feel like it's usually still very projected, with a lot of press in the chords, and this is so velvety. So we really get to hear, how do I say this? I was gonna say we get to hear more of his tone. I want to make sure I say this correctly. When I think about the human voice, when you start singing at certain frequencies and you use a lot of air pressure and a lot of tension, creating a lot of volume, you can't always incorporate as much nuance. And this is across every genre of music, like from rock to country to musical theater to opera. You can still distinguish who you're listening to, who the singer is, but you can hear more characteristics of the voice in mid-range. And so that's why I'm really appreciating this particular section of clean vocals, because it is mid-range, it's lower, it gives him the freedom to do more with adduction, with placement, with resonance. And so I feel like it just adds that much more color to his sound, which is cool to hear. I also love just how nonchalant he is in both settings, whether it's harsh vocals or sustained singing. Like, it's just, his face is so chill. This, oh my goodness, we're only 3 minutes in. This round of singing, I feel like he pulled forward a lot more and we're getting a lot more nasality than we did the first time. And then, of course, we get this beautiful like head voice at the end of it. I'm so curious. I know, just watch the video, Bethany. I am curious about how this is going to pan out, but it's so cool to hear so much of one voice in one song. As singers, we try to do it all, but we kind of have to, narrow it in when it comes to performance and recording and all of that fun stuff, because you have to make it easier for the listener to understand your music and understand like what genre you're in, and hopefully, end up on a playlist that they're experiencing. So this is just really fun to hear so many different vocal styles in 3 minutes, let alone whatever's going to happen in the next 7. Switch off that they did between, and they are probably continuing to do, where one singer has a little bit more articulation in their melodic line and the other one is just sustaining an ooh. It's not staggered breathing by any means, but it kind of gives that effect because they're just creating this beautiful orb of sound, and we're not hearing like very distinct cutoffs, aside from when the line tapers and we know it has ended. These are fairly long phrases, and it's just really beautiful how they're sort of creating this. I keep saying, I think of like an orb of sound. It's just like alive and breathing and like moving ever so gently throughout this song, this melodic line. Last line. Just little shifts in articulation can have a big effect. And in one moment, I feel like he sort of pressed through an ascending line and did a little slide. And then afterwards, it was much more staccato. Let me... Darkness by her side. Yeah, dedicate, like really singing through that, and then, was it? I don't know, I feel like he's saying hunter, but yeah, that last word or couple of words, they kind of like drop in very abruptly. It's interesting, instead of just da 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 da, like, that, I mean, don't get me wrong, that could be pretty too, depending on how someone does it. But I think they're making these phrases more interesting than they might have been were they not doing these particular articulations. Faithful almost like a little yodel at the end of that line. I love that. Like I said before, it sounds to me like it's in mid-range for him. He is pulling sound forward, so it's got that bite, that nasality, but it's also fairly pressed, and so when you have a lot of muscle activity and you've got a lot of air pressure, that is one way of intentionally creating a break or a flip or a yodel in your voice, because our chords to an extent can only, withstand so much. That's why, like, I don't know, maybe you've seen a movie or something where like someone's yelling and then all of a sudden, especially I'm thinking of like men yelling, and then you hear kind of like their voice break or something like that because they're just exerting so much pressure on the chords. That's kind of what this sounded like to me, but in an intentional way, where he's taking advantage of all of the air he's using throughout this line. To look them up. This is just so interesting to me. The quick overview says Swedish progressive metal band incorporates folk, blues, classical, and jazz elements. And I'm not getting all of that in this song, but I can definitely hear more than just metal. I can't even remember what I was going to say. I love the harmonies we just heard, so I'm going to back that up. There's like a mellowness in this song, and yet I don't know, it's not a harshness. There's like an intensity. It's just, I can't put my finger on it. That's why I'm taking so much time to think about this, because I don't know. I don't know. This is just something very new and I like it. So here we go. Like even here, previously there was a moment where like the keys sounded more like an organ. This sounds almost like a wind instrument. Like it almost sounds like a flute. And the tonality, I mean, there are moments where it just feels very straightforward, and then other moments where it just seems a little eerie or ominous. And then other moments where it feels like melancholic. And as I was about to say as it should, not that it has to, but it is like, if you're going to take up 10 minutes and create a composition, like, I appreciate that they're taking me on a journey. And it's not just, the same thing over and over.
To see our beloved son in this bed of water tonight.
See, like that last guitar riff, I'll go back a little so we get this transition, but that even just reminded me of some, like, maybe, I don't know, 80s, like, rock ballads, like, whenever you hear some sort of, like, guitar solo, or it's creating kind of an aesthetic or an ambiance, like, there's just a lot of different flavors in this one.
Forgot the source of the flow and everything would change. Will conviction fall in the shadow of the righteous? The phantoms melt your mind, but be calling you to go. Find the forgotten morals where the victim is the prey.
The only thing this song was missing for me was a lengthy clip of his face while he was doing harsh vocals. After, watching them all for a little bit, I'm pretty confident he's a tall man. And like I said, I think some of that really beautiful depth we heard in his harsh vocals can be attributed just to his anatomy. When he was singing and we got a close-up of him, you could see a widening just with his mouth position. But I couldn't quite tell where his larynx normally sits. Like if he generally maintains a higher laryngeal position, or if he allowed his larynx to rise in order to achieve some of these sounds. Maybe, I say allow it to rise, more so than what he might consider normal for his typical vocal production. So the reason I would be curious to see him do harsh vocals would be to watch and see if he's lowering and depressing his larynx in order to achieve more of that depth, or if it, again, is just because of his stature. I don't know. This was so interesting. I have received countless emails throughout the duration of this channel with people referencing OPETH. Not necessarily asking me to do reactions, but saying they, fill in the blank, are heavily influenced by this band. And so I was so curious to see if I could, get a picture of the band to understand why so many people are influenced by their music. I don't know if this was a good representation. I feel like I got to hear a lot of what they do. I just don't know. I mean, vocally, we get both harsh vocals and clean vocals. Musically, it was just, there was a through line in that groove and mellowness, but a lot of things were happening. So, and even like the description I read listed so many styles that they incorporate. So I would love to have a better picture of this band. So if you guys have, a way of describing them that feels, all encompassing, please feel free to let me know. But that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching with me, and hopefully I will see you next time.